Oh, yeah. I don't think they'll be too bad. I don't think they'll run over.
We'll call the Wednesday, August 28th meeting of the Planning Commission to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Jason Carnahan,
Here.
Bill Van Wy, Bill Hartman,
Here.
Sandy Harrison,
Here.
Tyler Lanning,
Here.
Frank Pulver,
Here.
Jerry Yoder,
Here.
Suzanne Davis,
Here.
Angie Holt,
Here.
Mike Makowicz, Alicia Rogers,
Here.
Andrew Cruz,
Here.
Chris Gallmer,
Here.
Meredith Wright, here.
This time we'll stand for a pledge of allegiance. At this time, we'll have a opportunity for a moment of prayer. If anybody wants to lead us.
Nominate Jerry.
All right, I'll pray. Father God, we just come to you this evening, Lord. We invite you into this Plan Commission meeting. We know by your word it says that where two or more are gathered, you will be here also. So help us, advise us. We want to keep patience and peace in the meeting tonight, Lord, and we want to conduct it your way, and we want to conduct it for the good of the county. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
In your packets, you should have the minutes from the previous meeting. Unless there's any changes, I would accept a motion to accept or not accept the meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Minutes are approved. Same thing with claims. Unless there's any changes, we'll take a motion to approve or disapprove.
I move to approve the consideration of claims for July of 2024.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the claims from July. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. Okay. We have a meeting scheduled for September 18th. Was looking around the board to see if it would be acceptable, because it's kind of a longer meeting with 4 or 5 petitions. If we could move that up to 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. I don't know if that would work for everybody on the board or anybody. Did you have a preference, 5 or 6, Chris?
I mean, I would prefer the earlier the better, but
What works for everybody else, I guess? It's going to be a little bit longer meeting.
we've got 2 rezones, a plat vacation, and a new subdivision coming in, so it'll be a little bit of a longer one.
I can do 5.
5 works for me.
5.
5 works for everybody?
Yep.
So let's change that time to 5 instead of 7. Chris, is there any old business?
No, sir.
Okay, new business is petition 24-27, Thalassa Energy Project LLC, requesting an amendment for a commercial solar overlay. We will have an application for said solar overlay. This is a request for properties to be included in the project, not a project development plan. It's important for everyone to understand that the proposed amendment would only apply to the properties included in the application and does not include any other solar project. The Plan Commission has not seen a development plan for this project, nor has one been submitted. Plan Commission cannot hear comment on anything that would be related to the development plan, such as setbacks, panel locations, landscaping, wildlife corridors, etc. I would ask everyone speaking on the project to keep that in mind. With that said, it is a public hearing. The schedule for the hearing will be as follows. We'll have the petitioner come and give a presentation on their CSES overlay district amendment. Thalassa will have an opportunity to further explain this request to the Plan Commission. They will have about 5 minutes. Following that, we will try to have a short discussion amongst the board, and then we will begin a period of public comment. At that time, I will give the rules for said public comment. With that said, Chris, do you want to go over the highlights
Sure.
of the petition?
Yes, sir. This is for, as Jason said, Thalassa Energy Project LLC, requesting an amendment to the Commercial Solar Energy Systems Overlay District to be included within said district. The project is generally located south of County Road 40, west of County Road 51, north of State Road 8, and east of State Road 1 in Butler. It's for the inclusion of approximately 872 acres. In your packet, you see what Thalassa has submitted as far as their project boundaries, and then I'll go through the staff report, take you through kind of page by page of what all that represents. As we know from previous hearings, there are currently 0 acres that are part of the overlay district. There are no projects that have made it through this part of the system. This is the first step to a commercial solar energy systems project. For this amendment, the Plan Commission is required to give a favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation to the county commissioners. And then the county commissioners will adopt or reject the Plan Commission recommendation. This follows the section of the code in our ordinance 3.13B1A and B and Indiana Code 36-7-4-608 F and G. Again, there's about 872 acres located in Wilmington Township, just southeast of the city of Butler. This includes 18 parcels with 5 landowners. The inclusion of these properties within the CSCS overlay district does not guarantee the project will be built. Again, there's not been a development plan submitted, and the project through the development plan application review will be required to meet the standards within the Unified Development Ordinance. So again, as Jason said, we're just reviewing them wanting to be part of the overlay district. We're not reviewing any sort of development plan. As you can see, the only thing that was submitted was the application and the project boundaries with Thalassa, so we don't even have a site plan to review at this time. The location maps show where this project is in relationship to all of DeKalb County on page 2. On page 3 shows where it is in relationship to the east county line and the city of Butler. And then page 4 shows kind of a zoomed in area of the project around SDI. Page 5 shows the existing zoning map. As you can see, the entire project would be located in the A2 zoning district. It is surrounded by, or in the middle of our I2 and our I3 zoning districts. Whenever I do these type of staff reports, I show what the purpose of the A2 zoning district is, and in the A2 agricultural zoning district, it is established for agricultural areas and buildings associated with agricultural production. Also allows for some small infusion of non-agricultural single-family detached homes in areas where impact on agriculture and rural character is minimal. With the establishment of the overlay district, the overlay districts are established to add development standards, reduce development standards, add uses, reduce uses, or the combination of the above. With the commercial solar energy systems overlay district, we added the use, which is solar, and added development standards, which is all part of that section 3 of the ordinance. Page 6 shows what the district intent is for the commercial solar energy systems overlay district, and it's intended to establish standards for the safety and compatibility for the occupants of the land in the immediate vicinity of a commercial solar energy system solar farm by setting development standards that supplement or supersede the underlying zoning district. This overlay district does not regulate small-scale private solar panels on residential or agricultural land and or structures that are not sold commercially to a utility but rather used for personal energy consumption. The establishment of the commercial solar energy systems area, which is in 3.13 of the UDO, kind of gives an idea of why it's established, what processes it needs to go through. I won't go through all that. And then the development standards for the approval of a project to be included in the commercial solar energy systems overlay allows for it to be any base zoning. So as you guys know, when you do an overlay district, imagine it being literally a use on top of the existing zoning district's uses. So in this case, it is the A2 zoning district, which allows uses related to farming and single-family homes. But for this, the only exemption is open space and parks. And with the approval process, the applicant files the Commercial Solar Energy Systems Overlay District. The Plan Commission holds their public hearings, which is today, and then the county commissioners hold their public hearing, and that is on, I should probably ask Catherine Bassett because she just put it in the newspaper. September 9th at 9 a.m. Thank you. But, so that would be September 9th. So for anyone that's here in the audience that wants to attend that meeting, again, it is September 9th at 9 a.m. And then what you have to look at as far as approving or not approving, but giving a recommendation to the county commissioners, you need to pay reasonable regard to, and Indiana code doesn't define what paying reasonable regard to is. It's kind of up to each plan commission member, and Andrew will help facilitate that discussion when we get to it, but you're paying reasonable regard to the comprehensive plan, the current conditions and character of the current structures and uses in each district, the most desirable use for which the land in each district is adapted, the conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction, and responsible development and growth. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions that you guys have. I probably won't be able to answer the majority of them, but the petitioners are here if you have any specific questions that they can answer.
Just real quick on the subject sites, should it instead read east of County Road 51?
Probably. You know how my north, south, east, west is. You're right.
Okay. I got it.
I'll tell you a story after the meeting about my north, south, east, west.
Any discussion from us before we bring the petitioner up?
Make sure your guys' mic are on too, and try to speak into the mic because we do have people out there that are trying to listen.
None? Okay, we'll have our petitioner come up and give their presentation around 5 minutes or so.
Can you make sure the blue light's on too?
How's that? Better?
Perfect.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chairman and Planning Commissioners. It's a pleasure to meet you, and thank you to the community for attending on this hot summer evening. Really appreciate your time. My name is Jackie Kitchen, and I am the Senior Director of Development for our Eastern Region for Lightsource BP's United States operations. And actually, prior to joining Lightsource, I was a planning director and a city manager for a large city, so kind of understand your side of the table and the perspective that you're bringing to this conversation as well. With me tonight, I have Curtis Nordick, the project developer, and Michael Wellman from our team. So I just want to start by sharing a little bit about Lightsource. As you may know, we develop utility solar projects all around the world. And here in the United States, we have operating projects right here in Indiana, next door in Ohio, in Pennsylvania, Arkansas, Alabama, Louisiana, Texas, Arizona, Colorado, and California. Together, these projects have generated over 3,000 construction jobs and enough power to supply nearly 300,000 homes. Our Indiana projects are particularly special to us, as our Bellflower project in Henry and Rush counties is part of a U.S. Department of Energy funded research project to study the economic and ecological benefits of solar. That study in particular is looking at the use of agrovoltaics, such as the planting of pollinator habitats, beekeeping, and sheep grazing, to better understand how dual-use solar is actually benefiting local communities. We're also very proud to partner with over 20 local family-owned farms or businesses across the country to incorporate sheep grazing into our sites as a means of grass maintenance and project maintenance. And most importantly, we strive to be a good community partner wherever we operate by paying significant property taxes, contributing to local nonprofits, and partnering with schools and businesses to support workforce education. Now, here in DeKalb County, we identified an opportunity to develop a quality solar project that would create projects throughout construction and operations and provide substantial revenue to the county and other entities through payment of property taxes. So far and to date, we've made investments in this project through payments to our landowners, interconnection application costs, initial procurement of equipment, and support of the DeKalb County Economic Development Office and the Chamber of Commerce. When we began to develop this project, we did so with the intent on ensuring that it would be a benefit to the community, and we specifically cited Talassa to be near the industrial steel plant to minimize impacts to aesthetics in the area. And since then, we've observed the passage of the updated zoning code for solar, and as a land use planner by trade, I certainly can understand and appreciate the community's desire to have a strong development code for solar and every other type of development that comes to your community. However, over the last year, it has become evident that the solar project may not be feasible for us to build into DeKalb County for the foreseeable future, as evidenced by the recent denial of the EDF Sculpin project. And as Mr. Gomer pointed out, no projects have made it through this point of the process. The Talassa project is similar to the EDF project in terms of design attributes, and therefore it appears to us that Talassa may be unfeasible. So given these events, we are evaluating the ability to continue our investment in this project. It is our understanding after speaking with Mr. Gomer that the first step in developing a project is to go through this overlay zoning process, and if it is not recommended for approval, then the project cannot continue. Therefore, Lightsource submitted this application for the zoning lay with the express intent of receiving direct feedback from you on whether or not this project is feasible for us. We truly want to be a good community partner and continue our record of positive relationships that we have with the counties and townships throughout Indiana and the United States. I also understand your role as planning commissioners and that of the Board of Commissioners, and know that you're representing the views and opinions of your constituents. And I also recognize that this project has been on the books in this community for a long time. We have several important investment decisions on the horizon for this project, and we're evaluating again if it's feasible. So I'm here to say that if the application is recommended for denial this evening, it is our intent to stop development of the project and provide closure to both the landowners and the community. We also understand that that decision would need to be made final by the board in the next couple of weeks, and we will not oppose that decision being finalized. So with that, I'm here to answer any questions that you may have along with the team about Lightsource BP and what we do throughout the country and the world, or the project itself, but we're also here to accept your recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments or discussion amongst the board? Nothing? Nobody? With-
Is this going to be used for SDI? Is it going strictly to SDI, or is it?
That'd be a question if you want to.
Give a brief overview of how
Sure, yeah.
solar, these operations work, that they go onto the grid, and you're the expert in that.
Correct,
stuff, so
yeah,
it's not
so-
directly impacting SDI or 500 homes in DeKalb County.
Exactly. So the way solar development works is it's like any other power plant. It's, we generate power and it's injected directly into the grid. And then it's up to the utility to determine where and dispatch that power is needed. So this project would not directly benefit Steel Dynamic or any particular landowner. It would just go into the grid.
Are there any other questions for her while she's up there so we don't have to make her bounce?
Yeah, excuse me. Where are the panels made? Where are they manufactured?
So we source from all over the world. We do have business partners throughout Southeast Asia and elsewhere. A majority of our panels are procured here in the United States from First Solar.
Does the scope of the project, the intent, go beyond the A2 areas that you're requesting a solar overlay, or is any of the I2 or I3 industrial zoned areas, would that become part of the project? It just wouldn't go
Just
through
the
this one?
parcels that are outlined there that show within the project boundaries, those would be where the panels and related infrastructure would be placed.
If they would get to the development plan phase and we would recognize that there's more area, they would have to come back and request additional area to be included in the overlay district.
Right. If it was an I2 or an I3, though, they wouldn't require the solar overlay.
They do.
They do require
It's
the
required
solar.
on
Okay.
under or over top any zoning district, except we exclude open space and parks as being
Right.
allowed to have an overlay district.
Okay, it would
So
still
it would
require a
still be
solar overlay.
required a
Okay.
solar overlay. Yep.
Thank
Yep. Yep.
And then at the time of the, when they submit a plan, development plan, then that's when we'll find out where like the transfer station is and.
Correct.
And their equipment.
Right. Right.
Until then, we have no idea.
Right.
So do you have any other projects in Indiana?
We do. We have quite a few. The closest one that's in operation is our Honeysuckle project, which is in St. Joe County, about an hour and a half west of here. And that project has just completed construction and is coming online. And then we also have our Bellflower project down in Rush and Henry counties, about 2.5 hours to the south. That's been in operation for over a year. If you're ever interested in seeing one of our assets in operation, I welcome you to come do a drive-by. And if anybody wants a specific tour, you can reach out to us. We do that. But those are both two sort of close and accessible examples of what our projects looks like and the quality and the standards that we bring to our construction.
What size are they? Just
So they would be quite a bit larger than what was proposed here for Thalassa. They're about double the size of what would have been here.
Anything else? For her, for her, I think you can sit back down again.
Okay, no problem. I'm here if anything else comes up.
Any more discussion amongst the board before we have public input?
Will there be a board discussion after the public input?
Yes.
you can have board discussion. I mean, you asked for board discussion. You can have it now if you want to. Just so you guys are aware too, Sculpin was about 1,800 acres. Sorry, my mic's on. Sculpin was about 1,800 acres as proposed, so this is about 1,000 acres less than, or about half of what they were proposing, just so you all are aware.
Yeah, to your question, we can have discussion after as well. Okay, we will now begin a period of public comment. We're going to do a time limit again, like we did the last time. It'll be a total of 30 minutes. For those wishing to speak for and against, we'll do 15 minutes each way. Alicia will run our time. So if we can limit each person to 3 minutes, that would be great. Each person needs to come to the podium, state their name and address, and then please no clapping, shouting, talking from the audience. Please try not to talk back and forth to each other. Talk only to the microphone so we can have it recorded. Also, your comments need to address the overlay amendment petition part of this, and not, like I said, not where the panels would be, not any of the development plan, because we haven't seen anything like it, so we don't have any idea. We can't answer those questions. If you start to deviate from that, I will try nicely to redirect you or ask you to leave the mic if we can't keep it that way. You must also direct your comments to us. Like I said, please don't try to talk to each other so we can keep track of everything about who said what. At the end, we will have a discussion amongst us, and we will decide a favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation to be given to the county commissioners for their meeting on October 30th.
It's October 9th, or September 9th.
September 9th. Well, my notes are wrong.
I got us ahead of time.
Sorry. You said September 9th?
Yep.
Okay. So then, like I said, then after that portion is closed, we'll discuss amongst ourselves before we make any vote. So with that, we will open public comment. Do we need to go?
I'll make sure to give you a 30-second forewarning before 3 minutes is up.
Do you want to go back and forth, or you want to go for then against? How do you want to do it? All right, we will do 15 minutes for those speaking for the project first. First person may come up at any time. You're speaking for the project?
I thought we just had a change of heart.
I wasn't listening.
Sorry. God. No, for those that want to speak for the project, if anyone wants to come up, come on. You can come up and ask. That's fine, sure. Yeah, come on up. Speak into the mic. Make sure the blue light is on too, please.
Hello, Kerry Brent Warfield. I got a question. First Source, she said that's where they got the panels from. Where does First Source get their panels from?
We will just make notes of these questions and then ask Jackie to come back up.
Okay, and then the other question is Southeast Asia. Is that China or is it trying to hide it in the Southeast Asia area? I'd like to know if they're made in China. They're not really too friendly with us right now. All right.
We'll keep track of this.
Thank you.
Good evening. And Bill or William Miles, 5149 County Road 52, Auburn. And I guess I'm not really overly prepared, but I just wanted to make a few comments for solar. It's kind of hot out. I like having air conditioning. I think all of you probably do too. Through the system, and it was brought up before during the other solar projects, they were mentioning, well, we need more nuclear power plants. Well, they aren't putting those out. In fact, they're shutting one down. Coal plants are pretty much all getting shut down. Power has to come from somewhere. It doesn't just show up without something being there. And from what I can see, solar is probably the least obtrusive choice for a renewable system we'd have in this area. Wind power does have noise. It's way up in the air. You've got lights and that. So, I'm not for wind power, but I do like solar. I understand that some people don't want the solar out in the field that they look across. I could be wrong, but I've got a good feeling that about 90% of those people own a house in the middle of somebody's farm on a field that they have to farm around because they sold it off to them. And they want the farmer to take it on the chin so they can sit there and look at crops. Well, you know what? Property taxes for farmers are pretty high, and they keep going up. Everybody's taxes keep going up. A new combine's $1 million with a grain head, a decent sized one. $1 million. It's getting where farmers can't hardly make it without a additional income of some kind. And this solar would be a very good income from them. And if it's like some of them were going to be in the other the other two projects, at the end of the lease, they come in and remove everything so that you would have virtually a 30-year set aside for the ground to renew that the government wouldn't have to pay for, and they could go into farming again at that time after having this and after having the money from doing this. I understand they don't want to see it. I also don't want to smell a chicken farm, but I've got a 27,000 chicken farm going in just about a quarter mile upwind from me. But it's their property. As long as they take care of any of the pollution and stuff like that, it's the farmer's property that wants to lease this. The other people that don't want it want to pay them the equivalent amount so that they keep farming it. That'd be great, but they aren't offering that kind of thing. And just thank you for your time. I know this has got to get real frustrating for you guys going over this time after time.
Anybody else want to speak for the project? Okay, we will switch to those that wish to speak against the project for their 15 minutes. Come up and state your name and address.
Not the best at following rules. Jessica Shaw, 3865 County Road 79, Butler, Indiana. Thanks for taking the time to let us speak. I just want to start with saying that this actually isn't about viewshed. It's about a lot more than that. We talk about property rights, but if you've built a house, you know you have to have it permitted. You know you have to pull a permit if you want to put in a pond. You have to let people tell you where you're going to put your mailbox. You have to seek permission if you want to run a commercial business and out of your residential home. None of us get to do what we want with our property. What we do have to do is follow the zoning regulations. And solar's getting special exception and not having to do that coming through the overlay district. As we saw with the Sculpin project, not only did they ask for special exception, they also didn't follow the A2 structure regulations with 15 and 20% coverage, okay? So when we're talking about solar, I'm thankful that she mentioned the St. Joseph County project because I actually see that solar rider surcharge on my I&M bill. Solar is not reliable, it's intermittent. It happens when the sun shines, we get wind when the wind blows, and it creates an unreliable grid. So yes, I want power, but I want power that's reliable, I want power that's efficient, and I want power that's affordable. So it's more than view shed. Nothing has changed since the Sculpin project. Still looking at decreasing neighboring property values, still not the best use of land. Somebody very intelligent once said, why would we replace the most efficient way of producing food with the most inefficient way of producing power? And I think that's still the case. It still doesn't align with the underlying zoning regulations. And more so than that, we're given foreign control over our food, over our land, and over our power through aligning with these corporations. Lightsource BP is, I believe, a British company. They've sold 2 of their projects to Geranex, which is a Japanese-owned company. Their Australian division has sold 5 of their projects to a Chinese company, Beijing Energy. And this is America. We started with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to keep things local. I'd like to keep American control of some of those things. So I'm sorry for the tension that this causes. And I'll support farmers. I'm not going to fight a CFO. It's agriculture use. I'm not going to fight chicken poop going on agricultural land. I'm not going to do that. I respect farmers as much as anyone. I'm just asking that we don't make decisions that don't align with our zoning, that cost our citizens, that depreciate property values, and that hurt the culture and heritage of DeKalb County. Thank you.
She said mostly everything I wanted to say. Andrew Provines, 3920 County Road 75. I want to reiterate that since Sculpin went through this process, really nothing's changed in the mind of the community. We still have a ton of citizens. We still have a ton of followers. If you go look at the websites or the Facebooks for the renewable companies or for these power companies, you don't see a lot of traction. You don't see people following them. You don't see people supporting them. We still have a lot of followers. We still have a lot of people in the community and across the entire county that do not want to see this in our county. Everyone likes to take this to a property rights battle, and there are 2 sides to every coin. So if you had 10 people involved in a project, you're probably affecting 100 to 200 houses. Possible property value decreases. And the one thing that's changed is every single day, we see more and more horror stories where people are reporting they didn't follow what they said they were going to do. People are suing them. They're ruining, they're runoff everywhere. They're ruining things. So you see those. If you go look, more and more come out every single day. At the beginning of this process, there wasn't that much information on them. But we are now starting to see what's actually happening. So there's 2 sides to that coin. Just because someone has 100 acres, 500 acres, or 1,000 acres, and I have 4, I have just as many rights as they have across the board. When we talk about the actual ordinance and we talk about the 5 questions, comprehensive plan. Our comprehensive plan says that we love agriculture. Solar farms does not make it agriculture. Solar farms means it's power generation that's been coined to make it sound okay and people to like it. It's industrial solar. It is utility scale solar. The character and usage of the underlying zone contains houses and farms, not power generators. The most desirable use of the land is farming. Preserve property values. Guys, no one wants to live around these things, but that is something you have to consider. No one wants to buy your house. Property values will go down eventually, but desirability is going to go down substantially. In responsible development and growth, if we're talking from an economic development standpoint, density of wealth is not there. Take something like SDI or a power plant, you have a lot of wealth in a smaller footprint. We're talking about on the east side when this began was around 6,000 acres proposed in this county. Density of wealth is not there. You can get more density of wealth in a coal plant, in shops. You know, if you take a mall, you get more density of wealth. So it's not responsible development and growth. No one's making more land. It should be used wisely.
My name's John Crunk. I live at 5497 County Road 44 in Auburn. I would have to say, for the record, I'm against this project. But as a personal opinion, I'm not against solar personally. I'm against some of the way that this is being brought about and done. Whenever you have, I believe people have property rights. You have the right to do what you want with your own property. The problem that's coming in here is the people that's affected, the next door neighbors to that property. On one of your maps, you'll see on the west side of SDI, there's a overlay section that has one little yellow dot right in the middle. That's my house. And a representative from Thalassa brought this contract with me over to my house to grant them an easement across my property. I kind of wanted to read this and just give you an idea what my beef with this project is. I asked their representative I told him, I said, I don't want my family living in the middle of a couple hundred acres of solar panels. Their representative was supposed to get with them and see about buying my property or in some way mitigating that area, because I know that my property is going to take a tremendous hit as far as its value. And this is what they sent me. Effects easement. Neighbor grants to developer a non-exclusive easement on, over, across, and under the neighbor property for audio effects, visual effects, view, light, glare, noise, shadow, vibration, electromagnetic interference, and any other effects attributable to the project located or conducted by the developer. And it goes on to say the foregoing grant includes the rights to impact view or create adverse visual effects, to cause or emit glare, reflection, heat, noise, vibration, and electromagnetic interference on or to any portion of the neighbor property on a 24 hours per day, 7 days per week basis. And then they want me to waive and release the developer and all that. The problem that I have with them is that if they are serious about going ahead with this project, they need to meet with the people whose lands are impacted, not just the people who are leasing their land, but the people whose lands are impacted by that. I have a wife and 3 kids. Worked hard for everything I got. I can't afford to pick up and move. And I don't want my family living in the middle of a solar field. So I talked with their representative and got no reply back from the company. On that basis, I'm completely against this. They have not reached out to the neighbors and addressed the concerns. So, and that's what I had to say there. Appreciate it.
Nicole Steary, 4594 State Road 1. On that same topic, I did talk to, I'm against solar. The original project was on both sides of my home. At some point along the way, this project has halved in size. Nobody knows why. I mean, the developers know. But a lot of our neighbors had contracts that had expired, contracts that they couldn't get out of. My next door neighbor had to hire a lawyer to get out of the contract. This is all responsible development. This is an inconsistent company that's not communicating with the people that have committed to leases and people that are living along these farms. My parents are on this project with one field that they had agreed a year ago to only sell if the project were to move forward. I don't judge them. That's their decision. I have my opinions. They have their opinions. Everybody has rights here. They respect my rights as a landowner. Right next to one of these projects. But I asked them one question. Did you hear from Thalassa before they sent letters out to the neighboring properties with no return address, but the post stamp said Minnesota? It appeared like the letter came from you guys. It didn't. So nobody knew where these letters came from. But I asked them, did you have communication that this letter was going to go out with your name on it as a landowner participating in this project? No, we have not heard from Thalassa since last year. That's poor business. That's not responsible growth. There's too much inconsistencies within the county, within the state, within the nation with these projects. There's resistance everywhere. It's not responsible. They own half the land of this project. They're a British company. That's not America. It's a British company that owns land that they've purchased. So what happens to that land when they sell this project? They are owned by LightSource. They potentially could sell this project. That's who's going to own our land that's right next to my home. Just a few things in the comprehensive plan. For those that haven't read this, there's a 50-some page comprehensive plan that everybody's reviewing tonight, and the purpose of the plan is to provide a community vision and implementation manual for the future success of DeKalb County. The DeKalb County Plan Commission has been established to regulate development in a manner that's consistent with the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the residents of DeKalb County. That's everyone. Residential, commercial, industrial, and agricultural development must take place in an area that's appropriate for the specific land use, and the rural character of the abundance of farmland is one of the most important land use attributes of the county. It's in our plan. We can't be the lesson. There's too many questions.
Hello, Jessica Hardy, 1314 Pearl Street here in Auburn. With the exception, I think, of Suzanne Davis and I, we may be the only two Democrats in the room. The election is in November. Most of the solar going on right now is probably feeding off of the Inflation Reduction Act. In the Inflation Reduction Act is Section 48E, which funds a lot of these solar projects. The Republican Party has openly stated that one of the first things they will do if they come into office is remove the Inflation Reduction Act, which will defund all of these projects. It seems like a bit of an oxymoron to me that we're standing in a room full of Republicans that will openly hurt themselves if they decide to vote for the Republican administration against the Inflation Reduction Act. I know this project may be trying and then hoping that the Democratic gets in. However, it may be an every 4-year fear as it rolls through, because what happens to these projects when they are defunded? Yes, we do have in our ordinance the ability to make them put in a bond, but there's no guarantee being is that they are foreign companies coming in. And so far, even the federal government has stated that most solar is not viable without our taxpayer dollars to help them. And we still don't really know how to fully recycle solar panels. So if these farmers and if these properties have these solar panels on them and these companies disappear overnight, they are LLCs, which is the easiest dissolvable company. What happens? I don't want to see these farmers go bankrupt or have to get a lawyer to fight because they can't figure out what to do. I guess if the Democratic administration comes in, we may at least not have 4 years of fear. But as Republicans sitting in front of me, I'm very surprised anybody would be for this due to the fact that the Republican Party is very anti-green right now. I just thought that would be something to think on. Thank you.
So there's time for one more if one more person wants to speak against the project. Seeing none, we will close the public portion of the.
Can we have Jackie come up and just answer those two questions
Yes.
that gentleman had? Jackie, the two questions on the land or First Source, where's that located? And then Southeast Asia, what's that considered?
Sure, yeah, happy to answer those questions. So First Solar
First
is
Solar, sorry.
the manufacturing company, and they actually are manufactured in Toledo, Ohio. And a majority of our panels that we have in our fleet are from First Solar. LightSource actually had one of the landmark sort of master purchase agreements with with First Solar several years ago. So that is where a majority of our panels come from. We do have some other legacy contracts from Southeast Asian companies and manufacturers as well. Those are mainly based out of Malaysia and the Philippines. And to the China question, a number of years ago, the tariffs passed at the federal level made the Chinese manufactured panels uneconomical for most developers. If there's any other questions, I know there was a number of things brought up. I'd be happy to speak to those if your commission has any other questions.
Yeah, I had a question about how much of the land would be owned by Alasa and what percentage would be leased?
So I don't have the exact numbers, and Curtis does, but I'd say it's around 50-50 that we own versus lease. Yeah. Yeah. So maybe about 40% owned versus leased.
Thank you.
And to the question, if this project does not move forward, yes, Talasa, which is a subsidiary of Lightsource BP through an LLC, would continue to own that land, and we would look at our options to sell it like any other landowner would do. Whether or not another solar developer could buy that is to be determined. We certainly couldn't discriminate against who would buy our property, just like any landowner couldn't. But I will tell you that if this project does not go forward, our associated interconnection position to plug into the grid would expire. And so there would really not be much value in another solar developer coming along and purchasing that property. Any other questions?
Sorry, I just want to go through, we received about 36 letters that were all sent to the Plan Commission. Everyone received them yesterday about 12:05 at the noon deadline. Thanks, Jessica, for putting that on Facebook. I'll just read who we received the letters from and the date, just so the public knows who we received them from and that they know that they were dispersed to the Plan Commission. Chad and Allison Carnahan on August 23rd, Andrew and Samantha Kleber, I'm going to butcher these names, I'm sorry, Kleber on August 27th, Angela Provines on August 26th, Alice Swift on August 22nd, Brian Miller on August 27th, Karami Crable on August 27th, Doug R. August 22nd, Deanna Treesh on August 22nd, Ginger Miller on August 27th, Isaiah Clemens on August 26th, Jennifer Beck on August 27th, Jessica Hardy on August 26th, Joshua Neller on August 27th, Judy Kraft on August 27th, Judy R. on August 26th, Jessica Scholl on August 26th, Lewis and Regina Starr on August 27th, Kevin Reed on August 26th, Lee Cook on August 27th, Jeffrey and Linda Ruckman on August 25th, Lucas Shake on August 26th, M. Fisher on August 27th, Jerry Murphy on August 27th, Rhonda and Bailey Doster on August 27th, Nicole Sturry on August 22nd, Ryan Hoover on August 21st, Robin McCann on August 25th, Ronald J. Provines on August 27th, Robert and Linda Wilder on August 25th, Carl Wright and family on August 26th, Stephen Culler on August 27th, Sarah Scholl on August 26th, Sarah Scholl, S-A-R-A, one's an S-A-R-A, one's an S-A-R-A-H, Scholl and family on August 21st, the Stout family on August 26th, Tawny Reed on August 26th, and Dick and Vicky Grogg on August 27th. So just so everyone's aware, they.
Then are we accepting those into the record for today, Chris?
We should, yes. Okay. Yeah, yeah. They will be made part of the record for today and in the packet of the final meeting packet for today's meeting.
Now we'll close the public portion of the meeting. Excuse me. Now we'll have time for some discussion amongst the board. If there is any discussion amongst the board. Bill, you asked if there was discussion after.
All right, then I'll start the ball rolling. We ought to prime the pump, I guess. I will say to begin with, I count 36 or 34, and the reason I know it was 30, and it might be 36, but because I read every one of them. I want the folks that took the time to write those letters to know I read every one and had to be in agreement with almost all of it. I do want to say, when we went through this first project with the overlay, the farther we got into that project, the less I like that overlay. I don't think it's a proper scenario to develop the solar farms. I think they should have to go through the same process that any other commercial or industrial project has to go through. The overlay is too broad, in my opinion, and maybe just not the proper. It's not the proper process in my mind. So, it's just, I think they should have to go through the same process, everybody else. No overlay.
Anybody else?
I think along with that, Bill, this is my first time kind of going through with the solar, the plans and looking at both sides of it. Reading those letters, it brought to question a lot of these main points that we're supposed to be addressing. And being an overlay, it's supposed to be an exception to the zoning that's there, and it makes it difficult for me to validate that and allow that or support it when it leaves questions at those things. I think if it could be proven desirable and effective for all people in the area, the surrounding neighbors, the homes that are surrounded, if that was all addressed properly or adequately of what there is potential left to do, it would make me feel better that everything is being done in the best way. But it feels like when this is made to be an exception for what's there currently, it makes it difficult to justify that, I think. And to be able to have to tell the people who wrote those letters to justify it to their face. So while I'm not inherently against solar and alternative energy options, I think it's productive to explore those, but it's being done in the proper manner that is supported by all those involved. I think is really what I would like to see and desire to happen.
I went through 2 days ago and I drove this site to look at it because I thought, this may be different than Sculpin. It's a lot of industrial area. Maybe there's some merit to the solar overlay here. As I drove around, I saw I think the gentleman who was going to be surrounded on 4 sides by solar, multiple homes surrounded on 2 sides that aren't part of the project or that don't have property in the project. I saw 99% was farmland. Most of it was beans. There was one small plot that maybe had been bush hogged or something, but it was productive farmland is everything that I saw. Really the only area that could maybe meet some of the qualifications is along County Road 55, directly adjacent to SDI, to the I-3. But the rest, by and large, was farmland. It was nice area. It was consistent with what the comprehensive plan envisions the county with the rural setting, and the priority of the rural character and abundance of farmland, to use words from the comprehensive plan. The fact that and even if it was adjacent to these I-2 properties, or even it's interesting, some of the I-3 is actually farmland, but it's not being used and there's no solar going on that. If it was contiguous, if it was gathered together in one location, if it was adjacent on the backside of the chain link fence where there's all kinds of equipment and industrial activity going on that County Road 55, it would make a little more sense. But the fact that it's so spread out, the ultimate, if you look at the perimeter and all that's impacting more homes, it's touching more properties, it's impacting more neighbors, that it really needs to be, it makes the impact even all the worse to that area of the community, is what I observed.
Any discussion from this wing?
I don't agree. I think it's the right place for it. Simply because it's around SDI. SDI was approved. People didn't want SDI, but the commissioners approved it without citizens' approval. And this is the only real place that the solar looks like it fits.
There's a big difference. SDI generates income, solar sucks up income. It sucks up your tax dollars, it's going to increase your electric bills. It's just not a good fit. SDI has so much more going for it than solar will ever have.
How can solar suck up your income when it has to pay property tax?
You pay taxes, you pay a federal income tax, you're going to subsidize these solar fields.
Is the county not going to collect property tax? You know they are.
Sure they are. In one pocket, not the other.
Where is the county collecting taxes now? Other than from landowners?
All property owners.
That's what I said. Landowners.
I think I'd like it more, Sandy, if it wasn't being subsidized by the government. You know, that makes it a tough issue to wrap around with when we start discussing taxes or the income value that it has to present. It's being subsidized by the government. It can't stand alone as its own program. It would probably be easier to be favorable of it if it was a standalone funded program in it.
Right now, you can't find too many things that aren't being subsidized.
I think that's a question that, I mean, there's just so many fingers to that, because the petroleum companies, we're subsidizing them. And they're charging us, you know what, at the gas pumps. But they don't pay taxes. All of the people who are making billions of dollars, they don't pay taxes. We pay the taxes. So we're not in charge of that bill. And I agree with Sandy. I think this is a much better place for a solar project. And since we looked at Sculpin, every time I drive around in the country, I think about solar. And I also realize that you're not really going to see it once the shrubs and things like that get planted, the landscaping. We have really good setbacks, huge setbacks, I think, too big in our plan. But when you really won't see them unless you're, up on the second floor on a balcony or something and looking for it. But I just think that this location makes sense. It's a small enough project. Maybe we ought to give it a try and see what happens instead of just saying no to everything. It's my opinion.
Well, I think we need to keep in mind that we're not looking for a less terrible place to put these. And really, the taxes are irrelevant. It's a matter of, as a plan commission, that's outside of our scope. We need to decide based on the 5 questions presented before us.
Yeah.
Is there any more discussion before we move to Andrew's findings? Okay, we'll move on to Andrew.
Well,
Andrew,
what are you talking about? No, they're not my findings.
Till Andrew goes over.
Will guide the planning commission with the findings.
Till
but
the
they're not
Andrew.
Andrew's.
Till the Andrew guided.
Well, we'll start with the jurisdictional findings, but yes. So we'll start with the proposed jurisdictional findings. Meredith, was application completed and filed on August 8th of 2024?
Yes.
Legal notice published in the Star on August 15th, 2024, and publisher's affidavit given to staff?
Yes.
Certificate of mailing notices sent and receipts given to staff.
Yes.
Report from the County Board of Health was not applicable here. Report from the County Highway Department dated August 20th, 2024.
Yes.
Report from the DeKalb County Soil and Water Conservation District dated August 12th, 2024.
Yes.
Report from the county surveyor dated August 19th, 2024.
Yes.
Then just for the record, we didn't have an airport report, Chris, probably because they're not in the overlay district, so it's not needed. Okay.
And just so the planning commission's aware, when we send this out, the health, the highway, really none of them apply to an overlay district, or this is similar to like a rezone, except we're adding an additional use because it's allowed in our UDO. Whether I take sides to that, I don't. I enforce the UDO. So those letters that we receive from them basically don't have any additional standards. You know, like for instance, the highway department, they will need to apply for and receive driveway permits. Simple as that. Drainage board, surveyor, they would have to go through the county drainage board to receive approval. Soil water, they'll have to apply for their SWIP and receive that. And the health department, as long as there's no sanitation on the property, as far as bathrooms or potable water coming in and out, they don't have any issues with the property either. So just so you're aware what are within those letters.
And then the UDO and statutory matters to pay reasonable regard to, I feel like, and Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, that all 5 of these have been pretty well discussed by the board members. I mean, I can go through them and see if anybody has anything to say, but I feel like that's already been done. I'll at least read through them. For the record, again, reasonable regard needs to be paid to the comprehensive plan, to current conditions and character of current structures and uses in each zoning district. Number 3, the most desirable use for which the land in each zoning district is adapted. Number 4, the conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction. And number 5, responsible growth and development. So everyone needs to pay reasonable regard to those when you are deciding how to vote tonight.
And I would say whoever makes their motion should probably mention a couple things as to why they would be voting a favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation. I know when we went through Sculpin's, we kind of went through each one and gathered some information, but again, as Andrew said, they've kind of all been touched on today, so I think everyone has a grasp as to what these 5 statutory requirements are. But if someone does make a motion, if you can just mention, you know, you're making a blank recommendation because of A, B, and C, or
yeah, I think that's a good idea.
That would be
Chris.
helpful.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion for a favorable recommendation, a no recommendation, or no recommendation at all. So favorable, unfavorable, or no recommendation.
I would move to make an unfavorable recommendation for the solar overlay proposed. I don't believe it's consistent with, although the solar overlay is allowed on an A2 agricultural property, we have to use the comprehensive plan as a guideline as to which A2 is appropriate. And all this may be closer to an industrial area. If you've driven the areas up and down the road, I have the dust on my black truck to prove it, and I need a car wash. I would say that it's farmland. It's just like the rest of the county. It's rural. It's what the comprehensive plan outlines. It's the comprehensive plan indicates the small town and rural character of DeKalb County is important to the residents. The farmland is one of the most important land attributes. Development needs to be adjacent to established cities and towns. It's agricultural zoning is in place to be able to protect the farmland and the industry of farming. And there are a number of other items in there. It doesn't create jobs, as it was suggested before. The density of the wealth generated for the county is not there like other industry would be. It's not the most desirable use of the land. Indiana has and in DeKalb County has some of the best farmland in the United States. We feed the world. And the land in this particular area is average to moderate value from a farming perspective. I do believe that folks, especially that are surrounded on 2 sides or 4 sides by the solar, obviously are going to see a decrease in their property values. I don't know. It'd be interesting to see data to show one way or the other. The data that's out there right now that I've looked for, it's either not available, it's not current, it doesn't address the inflationary values that we've seen in property over time in recent years, and most of that is funded by solar companies that are trying to show you that it increases property values. So I don't know that any common sense can tell me that it's going to increase property values, that clearly those people are going to be impacted in a negative way. So those are the reasons for my unfavorable recommendation.
Do we have a motion for an unfavorable recommendation? Do we have a second?
Oh, second.
We have a motion and a second for an unfavorable recommendation. We will now go to a roll call vote.
So your yes votes are going to be agreeing with the motion in the second. Your no votes would be opposite of that, just.
So a yes means no to the project.
Correct. Thank you.
Frank Pulver,
No.
Angie Holt,
Yes.
Tyler Lanning,
Yes.
Sandy Harrison,
No.
Suzanne Davis,
No.
Bill Hartman,
Yes.
Jerry Yoder,
Yes.
Jason Carnahan.
Yes.
So with a 5-3 vote for an unfavorable goes to what? Thank you. Gosh, I don't listen to directions either. So that 5-3 vote for an unfavorable recommendation goes to the county commissioners on September 9th at 9 a.m. We'll see some of you there. And thanks to everybody that attends. I know these aren't always the most fun meetings, but as working in DeKalb County, I appreciate seeing everybody out there. I'm going to take this time to plug that we did, I think I can say it, got at least preliminary approval to move forward with our comprehensive plan. That will replace the current 2017 comprehensive plan. I hope to see all of you at our comprehensive plan meetings coming up. Andrew's shaking his head. I know he'll be out there, and Jessica and her husband, who's bigger than me, will probably be there to kick some booty if you don't show up. So please show up. It's important. As you can see, projects like this can move forward or not move forward because of our comprehensive plan. It will be a vision that will last hopefully 20, 30, 40 years. So it's not just us that are here now, but it's going to be your kids and grandkids that are going to benefit from the comprehensive plan. So make sure you're there starting January 1st of next year. It'll be about a 16 to 18 month process. It does come to the Plan Commission for a recommendation just like this, and then it'll go to the county commissioners for a final vote. So I look forward to seeing everybody that signed in at those meetings coming up. Thank you. We still want to move forward with our Plan Commission meeting, so if you guys want to sit tight for a minute or go out to the thing, we can move forward with our meeting. Want to give about 2 minutes?
sorry. Do we have any reports from any liaisons around the counties and cities and whatnot?
She had a point.
I know she did.
So do we have any county and city meeting reports?
I don't know about that. They've got an awful lot of.
You went to the Auburn one. You should have an update. I don't want to rely on Mike to give me the update.
I have one for Garrett.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Frank.
Another subdivision on North Randolph,
That needs to come back.
Saddle Ridge. It's about a 15, 18 acre plot. I think they're going to have 36 or 37 lots. So they had the initial plat meeting yesterday, and so they're moving forward with that. It looks as though they're probably going to break ground in the spring. So once the crops are off, they start laying out the drives and sewer and drain and all of that. So it's like a nice project. It's well thought out. And the new planning director got her feet wet.
Quickly.
Is that going to be hooked up into Garrett's sewer system and stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could be in that open ag lot right by the golf course right there, between the golf course and Randolph.
Yeah.
They say it's going to connect to the Iron Horse edition, I think, right? That's what it looked like on the plan.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to have an exit entrance through Iron Horse.
Through Iron Horse, yep. So
One north and then there's one south, and then there's going to be a primary entrance off of 327. So, I don't know. I brought up the fact that, you're on a state highway. You better make sure you have your T's crossed and your I's dotted, because
yeah,
you put a whole nice driveway in and they go, oh, that's not big enough.
Or it's not permitted or not permitted correctly,
Yeah.
or you don't have the
Yeah.
right specs done.
The street light's too close.
Yep.
Yeah.
They'll come in and just take it out.
Light bulb.
Let's see, we approved it. The Dairy Queen got approved to be torn down and rebuilt, and that happened really fast. There was something kind of controversial. The multi-use district
that the
on
one-
7th
Yeah.
Street from.
That was a text amendment stuff, wasn't it?
I'm sorry.
That was a zoning district and text amendment, I think.
Well,
proposing a
it's a
multi-use?
zoning, it's changing it, and really what it's doing is just setting standards for any commercial that goes in there. It has to still fit the neighborhood. So and there's already a lot of exceptions in there, with insurance companies and a lot of other things along 7th Street. Was that just going to Van Buren? You remember? I can't remember exactly, but.
I think it's 2 blocks. I think it's from Jackson to Van Buren.
Oh, but it goes down to Depot Street.
Yeah, I
Thought.
think so.
Yeah, all the
I'm
way
sorry,
down.
I didn't bring all that because.
Yeah, I didn't
the agenda
either, because usually I
doesn't have it. I'm
have
sorry,
my
I didn't.
paper with me, but there were a lot of residents in attendance on that. They were concerned it was going to change their neighborhood, it was going to increase commercial usage. But if a restaurant wanted to go in, or any commercial building, what it would do is it would set standards for how many parking spaces they had to have, and then they would enter from 6th Street, which really turns into an alley after a couple of blocks. So, people were concerned about it, but it's really just adding, it was just adding standards more than anything for any business that goes in there.
The best way to explain it, standardizes a lot of the process.
Yeah. People were worried about their taxes increasing. It's like, no, it's the use of each building. So if somebody took their house and turned it into a commercial enterprise, they would pay more in their taxes. But other than that, was standard stuff, I guess. Yes, I was there.
Any more?
Can we have I have a question. primarily directed at Mr. Hartman. When you say that the process that we're doing now is not the way that it should be done, what is the proper way?
Rezoning.
So we would rezone all of that property?
Basically. As I understand it, sure.
So how was it handled when SDI was put there? Was that rezoned?
I would think so.
I don't think so.
But that was
So
different
how to get
parcels.
the
The parcels it sits
was-
on would have to be rezoned.
It was rezoned, and part of the reason why, and this has been discussed multiple times, but part of the reason that we went this route to allow an overlay was because with an SDI project, the land is never going to revert back to agricultural.
No.
From what we know about solar projects, and again, no solar project has been decommissioned and reverted back to its original land. We are assuming that when a solar project is decommissioned in 30, 35, 40 years, the land is going to revert back to agricultural. They say, experts say, and I have to trust what they say, will revert back to original or better land than it was before. Because once the solar panels are in, the land basically sits. Plants grow, birds frolic. If birds frolic, what do birds do? You would know.
They
Chirp,
sing.
Chirp,
They
sing.
sing.
They sing. But animals are going to be within there. So the land would revert back to that in 35, 40 years. Or theoretically, on the flip side of that, another solar company could come in and say, we want to use this same land, replace the panels, and do another solar project in 35 or 40 years. Then the land would be that way. So the reason we did the overlay was so when the projects are decommissioned, the overlay goes away and the land reverts back to the original agricultural land that it is, because it could be used, again, for agricultural single-family homes. An SDI project, if it gets decommissioned, I shouldn't even say decommissioned. If SDI would decide one day to get up and move to China, that building and land is going to sit there until either A, it gets sold and reused, which may or may not happen. The county's going to get it as a tax sale, and the county's going to sit on it probably. They're not going to have we wouldn't have the funds, I would assume, to tear down the building and it'd be considered a brownfield. So that's why we chose to do the overlay versus doing a rezone, because a rezone just doesn't make sense when you want to add this use. When we were looking at developing a solar ordinance, adding solar to our ordinance, it was discussed adding it to an existing zoning district or adding a zoning district just for solar. It's frowned upon to add just a zoning district for one use because it would be considered like a spot zoning. We looked at taking it to the Board of Zoning Appeals and doing a special exception. To me, I don't think the Board of Zoning Appeals is the right body, and I've said this in a public meeting, and Frank and Jason, who are on the BZA, can probably attest. It's probably not the right body to make those type of decisions for that large of an area for DeKalb County.
Absolutely.
Oh, and one more thing to add is I think if the BZA makes the decision, it's appealable to a court, potentially, right?
It's appealable to a court, yes.
Whereas this zoning change is not appealable to a court.
Correct. A zoning.
So that's, legally speaking, that's a big deal.
Right. The final verdict, since we're talking courts, comes to the commissioners. And unless we did something procedurally wrong, which God forbid we do, and I don't think with Andrew and I at your helm would do something illegal, process-wise, they really can't sue you for anything once the legislative body, which is the commissioners, makes that final decision. So change the zoning, BZA, or the overlay are kind of the three options you have to create an overlay district.
So the overlay district is within the comprehensive plan.
The overlay district is not within the comprehensive plan. The establishment of our overlay district, what you can do in an overlay district, is in our comprehensive, or in our ordinance per section. And I think it's important to mention this.
Section 3.13, is that what?
Section 1.15 on page 5 at the bottom. So our UDO, this is before my time and probably before some of your times, we establish UDO districts. And the UDO districts are to add development standards, reduce development standards, add uses, reduce uses, or any combination of the above. So what we did with the overlay is allowable in our UDO because we are adding a use in an overlay district, we're adding solar, which is a use, and we're adding development standards. And that 3 point whatever district is our solar district, section 3.12, is the development standards for the overlay. So what we did is legal, correct, if that's what you want to call it. I do think, though, that if going the overlay district route is something the Plan Commission, coming from commissioners maybe, I don't know, is a route that you want to take, I think that it's important to get it into your UDO how you want overlay districts to work. Do you want overlay districts to add uses or just reduce uses? Do you want overlay districts to add development standards or just reduce development standards? Or do you not want overlay districts at all and we just don't allow them? You have to go through a zoning district change.
Yeah,
That's an option too.
I would say you have
But
to do
changing
one
the
or
zoning, changing the zoning, if we would put solar in one of our I1, I2, or I3 zoning districts, adds not just solar, it also adds the entire list of uses that are in our UDO to those proposed uses. Again, I say this every day. I could care less what you guys would want to do. I just police what's in our UDO and make sure it's legal. But so if that's something you want to do, I think that the Plan Commission needs to have that discussion with the county commissioners, maybe a joint meeting of some sort to figure out, are overlay districts appropriate in the county? I think this is all going to be a good topic of discussion when we do the comprehensive plan, how the zoning ordinance needs to change to reflect the views of the citizens of the county. But that's a really long-winded answer to your question on why overlay districts.
I just think that, we're at a point where renewable energy is our only option. And, when we're totally supportive or controlled by the petroleum industry, it's not going to get cheaper. Nothing's going to get cheaper. So if there's a wrong way and a right way to approach this, so be it. I mean, I'm not anti-solar. I'm not necessarily pro-solar, but I look at the fact that, this is what we've got right now. We don't have a choice.
Yeah.
And if, that's like the big fish keeps buying the bigger fish, and pretty soon the big fish controls everything. And that's just about where we are. But we are there. We are there. Look at the profits. Billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars for the oil companies. And we're still bickering over, I'm definitely not a windmill person. I think that solar is a far better option. I wish there was some other way, but I don't know what it is. There's got to be, a non-participating landowner, has all the same rights as everybody else. But at the end of the day, something has to change. Because we're all going to have a chain around our ankle. And we're not going to have any options. and those people could care less. But if you feel that that's the wrong way to go about it, then, you know, I think there's a lot of fear-mongering. You know, the one guy that spoke about his was the little house right in the middle. I mean, I'm very sympathetic with that guy. I understand that. Absolutely. I would feel no different than he did. But something has to change. Absolutely. I mean, it's, you know, solar is no threat to Exxon. You know, they, if it becomes a threat, they'll just buy it. So.
Frank, if you want something to start knocking the chains off your ankles, it's not something that's only 15% efficient when it's running. 15% isn't going to get you much.
No.
So there's going to be other energies out there that are going to come in.
Let's hope so.
Oh yeah. There's going to be.
And I don't know. I mean, you've got that number, and I don't know where you got that number, and that might be accurate, it may not. I don't know.
Yeah, that was put out there back in the last.
Okay.
The last one we had, it was and I feel it was an accurate number for Indiana. Now, Florida or California or the blue sky states, it might be higher, but here's 15%. That was a fact that we were told. So that's all. That's one of the things I'm going on. Is 15% isn't near enough to knock the chains off your ankles.
No.
It was 23.
I do think as the Plan Commission, we need to, as we look at the new comprehensive plan, to look forward to what those things are. If it's small modular reactors, begin to think about and get input from the community on what does that look like in the plan? And how do we make provisions for it? And will we allow it? And under what circumstances? And I don't know, whatever other technologies might be out there.
And part of those, I mean, I've had discussions with some Purdue Extension or Purdue University staff on those. And the problem is like, nobody knows how big those things are supposed to get to produce enough energy to make them profitable, right? Like these companies aren't coming to just make it as a nonprofit. They have to be profitable with whatever quote unquote renewable energy source it is.
Those will be subsidized too, you know?
Probably yes, but so to make it profitable, does that mean it's a 100-acre site or a 200-acre site or a 300 or 400 or 500 or 800-acre site? We just don't know.
Right.
And I don't think there's probably been anything built in the United States for us to even say, okay, something that would be profitable is a 500-acre site. And then it comes down to where do we see that happening? I think that part of, and I've said this before too, is maybe we had the cart before the horse on this solar stuff. We created a district without really the understanding of the community input. I think we definitely had community meetings. Bill was there 2 or 3 community meetings with us when we established these districts, or when we established the district. But I think when the projects came is when we actually saw the pushback from the residents, which is, again, I appreciate them all being here tonight, but we needed that when the districts were being created.
Exactly.
Similar to
we had
when
those
we did
meetings. How many of those meetings did we have, public meetings?
Yeah, similar to our confined feed stuff. You know, when we did confined feeding standards, back when I first got here, it was a big learning curve for me, was trying to establish some confined feeding operation standards that would protect kind of those quote unquote, I say non-participating, they're not participating obviously, but the neighboring properties. And the second or third meeting, when they finally got wind of what was going on, is when they came out against the standards. So, you know, it's making sure that our residents, which you all are part of that group, is informing people of what our Plan Commission is doing and what we are looking at potentially creating standards for. I mean, we have meetings to go over standards in our UDO that I see as we need to make changes for, and nobody shows up. And nobody shows up to commissioners' meetings, nobody shows up to drainage board meetings, nobody shows up to council meetings. So, and until the public understands that it's your government working for you, you need to be here to support us.
Absolutely.
It's important. It's important. So,
Exactly. Hopefully all of those people want to show up at all of our comprehensive
Well,
plan
yeah,
community
yeah,
meetings
yeah,
and
of
input
course.
meetings.
Of course.
I watch the commissioners' meetings, and so I've heard a lot about the chicken farm. And it seems like there's going to have to be some discussion about, you know, the cattle farms, the chicken farms, all that kind of stuff, because the neighbors don't seem to like it very much.
But they moved into an agricultural area. And on their plats, it says, you cannot change normal agricultural
Practices, right?
I know
Practices.
Jerry reads it at all of our plaque committee meetings.
Practices where
Their
permitted,
standards.
permitted by law.
Yeah.
and
Changes there.
having a chicken farm or a chicken building is a normal agricultural practice. Having a hog farm, having cattle. As long.
It's just like corn and soybeans.
Yep.
It is, except the corn and soybeans don't do what the animals do, and that's leave all the, the waste products. And that's what
However-
some of the people who are concerned about water, you know, like streams and lakes and things like that.
Yeah,
That's
but
where some of that concern comes in, and it just, you know, nobody's saying, well, you can't have the chickens. It's just, I guess, what I'm hearing, it's how many chickens? You know, when does it become a problem? So,
when they surpass 30,000.
well, that's what the number is right now.
Well,
I
that's-
don't have any idea about the science on that of, you know,
Yeah.
how many, you know, the waste products from, you know, 299 cattle versus, you know, 305 is
Yeah.
not really that great. But,
But-
you know, I'm just saying that that's something in the comprehensive plan.
But those buildings are made to handle that type of stuff. And those neighbors won't go and talk to the farmers. If they would go and talk to the farmers, they would understand more. But they're just upset because that building is there. So if you won't talk to your neighbor, that's a problem.
You know, I've been part of the Planning Commission and the BZA for 6 years, 7 years. And soon after I had a year or so, I realized that 98% of the people in this county have no clue what's going on, nor do they even care.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just, it's really sad. And what you just said, you know, people
Yeah,
don't show.
I think people care. I think it's more.
Well, I shouldn't say they don't care.
Life gets in the way and it becomes
it's just
an
like-
issue, but.
They're busy with their thing.
Yeah.
Pay attention, you know, pay a little attention. So it's-
Yeah,
I'd
they
like
pay
to make
attention
a-
when it affects them
What?
directly. They pay attention once it affects them directly.
Yes, yep.
I just want to make a quick couple points. One, you know, we're technically not a legislative body, correct? So if the applicant follows the directions, cross the Ts, dots the Is, I feel, being on the city plan commission, that, you know, that some of these questions need to be taken up by a legislative body, not by us. How we feel about it shouldn't be part of our vote, in my opinion. You know, and that's where I've been on the city plan commission now for a few years, and I fight this all the time too. But In my opinion, what I was hoping this board would do is at least a no recommendation vote. Let the process continue, let it go through the process. And if the process is worth its weight, then the process will take care of whether it goes through or not. And you got to have faith in the process. I think here, if they followed everything, which what I gathered they did, having the no favorable, stopping it, or at least by their standard, they're going to stop this, I think we need to be careful of that, is all I'm saying. And on the City Plan Commission, we fight that same battle. Okay, so that's my opinion on it. As far as overlays, are they popular in other counties? Are other counties using them, and are they okay, or?
I would have to look at there's a Purdue Extension booklet on all 92 counties for solar, wind, CAFOs, everything. I'd have to look. I would assume it's probably about 75% are overlays versus maybe 10 or 15 make them go to the BZA and the rest make them go through a rezone and put it in an industrial use. The overlay is popular because I think the plan commissions and county commissioners, yeah.
The overlay lets it go back to.
Correct.
No, I think it's a good idea. I was just curious if other counties were using it and how popular it is.
I know our neighboring Noble County did it as an overlay, and I think Steuben does it as an overlay.
Didn't Whitley maybe had an overlay too?
Whitley
I'm
maybe
trying to
too,
remember.
yeah.
I think it's important to say that I don't think it's fair to say like we voted with our feelings and they followed all these rules. Our motion clearly stated of how they went against these 5 questions. Right? Like I can't say that the conservation of property values throughout the jurisdiction aren't affected. And that guy said, like the gentleman clearly said, he's going to be surrounded on 4 sides of his residence. If that could have been addressed. That's the things with it. I'm not opposed to solar by any means. Right? It's just got to be done in the right way and proven to be effective. I think fell a little bit short improving the validity of it, right? We're arguing about the 15% or how effective is it or efficient and what's going to happen in 30 years. I want a little better data on that that's unbiased. I don't like numbers that maybe the solar company does a study with a non-related organization or something, or has a university do a study on it, and they can bring those numbers about. That would, I think, complement them. Like the gentleman said, buying him out of his residence. Right? He got that one notice about the contract, and that was it. That very easily could have been done with the amount of money that's there to make from this development or project. They could have offered him more than fair value for his residence to buy him out of it. Right? And I think you form a contiguous lot. It makes it a lot easier to zone it that way, and we're not trapping people in or breaking up these properties. It would certainly number 4 would make me feel there I go with feel right. It would seem much better to reserve that property value. I came into this feeling pretty strongly about the people who were in contracts with Lassus about making their money however they see fit with their property. I like that idea and concept. It's their property and they own it and they bought it and they paid the money for it, and so it's kind of their thing to do what they want with and make the money. If it's not, I think sight isn't enough justification for me. It's not enough of your senses being affected to make me say no to it, right? Just because they don't like to see it. Maybe some people don't like looking at corn, but when we get into some of those other issues, is what made me hesitant on that. I still think it'd be beneficial for the people who own the land, but it also could affect the neighboring properties, and that's what made me a little conservative on it. So I think with some careful addressing to that and maybe some better planning, it could be done. I did those 5 questions. I think if any company wants to do it, that they look at those and they make sure that they check them all off. Don't give us a reason to say no, right? Don't let that one house be stuck in the middle of the solar field. If they can check off all 5 of those questions, then I would approve them through, and they would move on to the next step, and it would trust the process. So exactly like you said, it's just I think more could have been done. better communication, to get it through.
Yeah, Tyler, like, I agree with you. And again, there's no right or wrong here, and I'm not trying to, you know, I do believe in the process, and I believe we can go through, but how prepared were they when they came into this meeting? Were they prepared properly? We don't know that. If they have other projects in other counties and other states, you would have thought they would have heard these questions before.
Yeah.
So part of me agrees with you that they did come in unprepared.
Just need a little more, yeah.
Yeah, a little more detail, and hopefully they'll learn from this and move on. And, but, you know, just like with, you know, when we have our project advisory meeting, you know, we talk to the city people, right? The city hall, you know, and we ask them, okay, what questions have they brought about? What are some objections? The first thing I always ask them, the city, are there any red flags coming up from this process? And do they understand those red flags, you know? And I don't know if these people did or not.
And that's why I asked if you had any other projects in Indiana. And she talked about both of those that are apparently are operating.
Yeah.
So to me, that was her opportunity to step up another level and say, you know, could have done a lot more for herself and for us, but she didn't do that.
I don't think she had any expectation that this was going to be favorable.
Well,
nor would it be
I
approved through the
definitely got that in her
commissioners.
opening speech.
Right.
Yeah, that was.
She just wanted it to be formalized so that they could then pull their resources out of it.
Yeah,
That's what I took from
and
that.
that's when I asked and she said about the two, I thought, okay,
Yeah.
here's an opportunity.
No, they'll go where you know.
Welcome.
Yeah, where it's more welcoming and it's, you know,
probably
maybe they
tough.
have a different process with different counties, I don't know.
Be tough with that amount of opposition, you know, to come in and
Yeah.
run a productive
True.
organization.
You know, Tyler, if they would come in and lease, you know, their properties but for a foreign company to come in and start buying our ground, that's a red flag. To me, that's a red flag.
It's I thought the same thing. I don't know if I don't really know if there's a legal leg to stand on there, you know what I mean? Like to discriminate against zoning for something of that reason. So I didn't want to mention that. On a personal level, I would prefer not for a foreign company to own land right here, you know, as somebody's neighbor. But
Andrew,
I don't really know Andrew wise. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's better not to, I guess, you can talk about things from a political level, I suppose, like China is obviously a geopolitical force that's against the United States, or sort of on many levels an enemy of the U.S. militarily and so forth and economically. But then there's also some economic connections we have, but I mean, I think it's okay to acknowledge that stuff, to talk about what's the political things going on with
it's like British though.
renewable things. That I think what you want to steer away from is things that are obviously, and I don't think anybody's like racially toned on any of this stuff, but, and I think maybe Tyler, you're the one that's keying into this. It doesn't really fit any one of these five reasonable regard to, and I think there's enough on both sides of the pro or anti overlay district here to, you know, there's discussion points in this five and you can support it, so. And I think everybody keyed in on those five arguments and focused on that, and that's the best way to go there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, these are definitely discussions we can have leading up to, you know, the comprehensive plan and how we want to handle laying these out in the future. I guess the rest of the agenda, are there any comments from public in attendance? It's down to one.
Wait a minute.
Oh.
Butler and
Butler.
Hamilton.
Oh,
Butler and Hamilton, here we go.
All right, we got sidetracked.
Wait a minute. Butler had a meeting, but they failed to post the meeting, so I didn't know about it. And then Hamilton had a death in the family, so their meeting got canceled.
So you're reporting that there's nothing to report.
That's
Gotcha.
true.
Very good.
Okay.
Good reports in.
Short and to the point.
Now we're ready for you, Lynn.
That's right.
Lynn Reinhardt, 4224 County Road 71. Thank you for this opportunity. I guess setting.
Can you make the mic, sure the mic's on?
It is.
Okay, you weren't switching over. There you are.
It is on. Okay, sorry about that. So I didn't expect the opportunity to come forward yet this evening, but listening to some of your conversation, I wish that more of that conversation would have been had and took place prior to or after the motion was made. A lot of good discussion on both sides of things, but it came after a decision had already been reached. What good did that do? I don't know. I've got some questions I'll probably try to talk to some of you individually about, because I'm guessing if I ask a question here, it won't necessarily be answered anyways. I think when you switched from the solar to the livestock and things, I think you need to look at all these projects for what they are. And that is, and nobody's going to like this term, but it's not in my backyard. And that's definitely what it is.
Yep.
People had opportunities to participate, just like I chose to stay here, but what did all the rest of them do? As soon as they got their decision, they were out of here. And there's too much of that. And it can't always be not in my backyard, because everything, no matter whether it be energy generation, livestock production, industrial factory, got to go someplace, and chances are that it's going to go by somebody that somebody's going to say, I don't like that there. I don't want it there. I mean, I'm guessing there's some of you sitting here on this board that have been in that position. So realize it's true. And I don't know what you do about it, but something you have to be cognizant of, I guess I'll say. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Lynn. Then there's no other audience left to comment. So if there's nothing else from the board, we will adjourn.